Hello, this is Dan the Furniture Repairman. Today we have a two-part video on how to fabricate this molding that's missing on this beautiful antique trunk. Now what I'm going to use is this dowel, which is about, I think, the same diameter as the existing molding. It's close enough, and I'm holding it up here in place. And what I'm going to do is make little tick marks on it where the molding needs to be cut. Now I'm going to take this and put it on my lathe and turn it on my lathe and cut it down. I'm not going to do a thing where I try to make a copy of it and fabricate it some other way. I'm good on a lathe, and I might as well use my lathe. So here you see my tick marks, and I'm just turning the lathe a little bit, making those marks a little larger. And when I turn the lathe on, then they will be visible. So here goes the lathe, and I have it in the between my centers. It's a little out of whack, but not bad. And now I'm going to take my skew chisel, and I'm going to start carving these beads in. Now I'm using my skew chisel as a scraper, so if you're a turner, you can make fun of me. That's okay, because the existing molding is torn out and is very rough, and we're trying to replicate that. So we have to turn this badly so that it looks like what's on there now. So rather than make very smooth molding and then try to rough it up after the fact, I'm going to actually make it a little rough as I turn it. And then here you can see we're just kind of going through, and then what we call those little ones in the middle, those are usually called beads, and then I call the other ones barrels. If you can, please hit that thumbs up. It always makes me dance a jig when somebody does it. So you can see I'm working my way right down. First I get a general shape, and then I come back and I start fine-tuning my shape. Now, I kind of look over at my existing molding, and this is a little different than normal copy work, because normally you're copying a spindle, and what I'm copying is a quarter of a spindle. So it's not like I could throw my calipers on it really easily and measure. Everything done here is like with an eyeball. So I'm just kind of working down, and you can see my left hand is wrapped around the spindle as it turns, and if you're not a turner, this may seem like, you know, a crazy thing to do, but once you get used to working with pieces like this, this is a good way to steady the work. And then, you know, in the beginning, people start out, they wear leather gloves, but after a while, you know, my hands are pretty much leather right now. So I'm steadying that work, keeping it from vibrating, and I'm just kind of fine-tuning these little beads down, getting the shape to where I feel like they're closer to what's on the piece. Now, as I work it, then I'm going to take it off the lathe and bring it over to the piece and match it up and work with it a little bit more. But first thing I kind of do is get a good eyeball, and right now I feel like I'm in pretty good shape, so I'm going to sand it. Now, this is a piece of 80 grit, and this is orbital sanding paper, the sticky back type PSA, and I usually fold it in half, and we call this a taco in my shop, and it makes this shape, and it's very strong. It lets me get in those tight grooves. It also handles the heat from the turning very well. And you can see on the left-hand side, I don't even have this in the chuck. It fit right in my headstock. So I just kind of put it in there and gave it a tap or two, and that grabbed onto it well enough. So here it is on the piece. I'm not all the way happy with the way it looks. It's close, and you can see the tear out, which actually makes me happy. So I went back and I turned it more, and then this is what made me happy. I think this is what I need. So this has like the shape that I feel that will work for me. Now what I need to do is cut it down. So I cut it in half on my table saw. I just ripped it in half, and you have to be careful with this. And now I'm going to rip it into a quarter size. And again, I don't have a lot of ability to measure what's there, so I'm just kind of working with what I have. Now when I copy turn pieces, it's very common for me to have to go 2 or 3 times before I get it to where I'm very happy with the way it matches up. If I'm trying to copy an existing leg and make another leg or something like that, because it's very easy for you to go too far. But this is where I'm pretty happy with it, and I'm going to install it now. Now I'm using Bondo here. People don't think of Bondo as an adhesive. It's a phenomenal adhesive, and in a spot like this, it's incredible because it will fill the gaps, and it does have gap strength, and it will let me float it so that it sits in a position that I could feel like lines it up correctly. And here it is. I'm just going to take this piece that I've cut down, And I'm going to push it into the Bondo and seat it in there. Now, people worry about it being strong enough. Well, if it's going to hold on to your car as it drives down the road, trust me, it's going to hold this molding in place. Now I'm looking at it and I'm not quite happy with the squeeze out I got on the top. So I'm going to pull it off and I'm going to add a little bit more in this upper area right there. So I make sure that I have Bondo and molding all pressing together to the existing piece and becoming one piece. So I'm going to add more and then I'm going to press it in and let it squeeze out. And then I'll know I have it very well seated in there. And then when the Bondo dries, it'll become part of the piece and it won't come loose. So here I go again, and I'm going to press it in. Now the beautiful thing about Bondo is you don't necessarily need to clamp it. You can kind of just press it, and if you have enough there, it'll just hold itself in place. Now I'm coming back, and with my clam knife there, I'm just cleaning up my excess Bondo. I'm going to scrape it off because I don't want to have to chisel it off or sand it off or cut it off later. It's easier to get it out of the way now, and I just have that little wooden tool, and I'm going to clean those grooves up, make sure they look good, and I'm actually going to kind of cut a little of that groove into that Bondo on the top where it may be filling in. And then after that, this is a rag with denatured alcohol, and the denatured alcohol works very well with cleaning up the Bondo. It doesn't cause any problems, it doesn't affect the piece at all, and I'm pressing it in. Now it's dry, and I'm just taking my little saw and I'm going to cut off the edge. And this works well for me where I don't have to figure out the exact distance. We call this cutting it in place. It looks like I'm going to cut my thumb there, but trust me, it would have been cut long ago. Now this is the existing molding, and the customer likes the way this looks with the grooves and the distressing, but I have to make mine look like that. So what I'm going to do is take a wire brush, and I'm going to just start brushing it like crazy and creating grooves in there. So this is what we call mechanical distressing, and you see guys do this. They'll hit tabletops with, you know, bunches of keys or hammers or all sorts of chains to mechanically distress something so to make it look old. And this is important. If I don't mechanically distress this, I'm going to have this piece, even though I turned it so it had a lot of chip outs, it's still going to look much different than the piece next to it. So the mechanical distressing is part of the process. And the wire brush is there, and believe it or not, what I'm going to do is take this little saw right here, and I'm going to drag it down, and I'm going to use the teeth to create lines, you know, those deep lines that I have in the piece, and scratch it up a little bit. So it's something that you can do. If it's too much, you can fill it after the fact, but if it's too little, then you have to do more. So you're better off actually going a little too far at this point and then sanding it back or filling it in to make it match, because if you're not far enough, then you have to stop, and then you're going to end up actually pulling off color or pulling off your work. So the key is get it right now. Take the time, get it right in this process. If you don't have it right now, you're not going to have time to get it right later, because it's going to be a different part of the process. You're going to be in color and fill and varnish. So here I go. I'm just kind of cutting my little grooves right there a little deeper, and I'm taking a good look at it, and I'm going to sand it down, make it, you know, a little bit smoother. And what I'm trying to do is trying to flatten it so it looks like the other side has been, it's been, you know, worn down over the years, maybe from things rubbing against it and stuff like that, where it's not a real sharp edge. And so I'm trying to mimic that sort of look. And now as I look at it, I think, well, let me cut this a little bit more. When I sanded it, those barrels kind of lost their shape, and I'm seeing it now, and the piece is installed. So what I'm going to do is use my utility knife, and I'm going to kind of trim them and shape them in place so that they look like the existing pieces. So I could take my knife and cut this piece out and then turn it all over again, make it a deeper shape, because I didn't account for sanding it down. But I think if I take about 10 minutes, use my utility knife, use my sandpaper, I can shape these into place where they will look acceptable to the eye. They'll kind of blend in well enough, and we'll be okay. Now, this part of the job frustrates a lot of people. To me, this is the beautiful part of the job, is dealing with this as this comes at me. This isn't a factory job. I've worked making kitchen cabinets where you make the same door over and over and over again, where you actually are making them in your sleep. You don't even have to look at them anymore. This to me is why I like to do this sort of work, because everything is a little different. Nothing's the same. You have to be able to think on your feet, adjust on your feet. You have to be a little bit of an adaptive artist or artisan. You know, you have to be able to use a utility knife to carve something. You know, maybe a lathe. Maybe you'll have to learn something. That's the fun part to me, is mastering it and taking my time, looking at it, saying it's not quite there. How do I get it there? And be patient. And there's nothing wrong with pushing the piece aside for a couple minutes, a couple hours, couple days, until the solution comes to you. Some of the stuff is just not real obvious, but if you think on it long enough, you'll figure it out. Now here you can see, this is where we're at. I'm happy with this way this looks. We're going to be into color and varnish. Watch part 2 for that. We'll put the links below and at the end screen. This has been Dan, the Furniture Repairman. Thank you so much for watching. If you have questions, comments, want to call me a shoemaker, go ahead, put them below. I'll try to answer them. You all have a good day.